at Flock Safety. Prior to serving working for Flock, I served for 10 years as a city council member in Cleveland, Ohio. So thank you for your service. Very much appreciate the hard work you do. And I've been in your shoes, and I understand the tough decisions that you have to make every single day. So I'll run through a brief presentation, and then more than happy to hang out and answer any questions that you folks may have. But again, thank you for having me tonight. So just a quick overview of our company. We are an American company based in Atlanta, Georgia. We have over 6,000 communities across the country that we partner with, from small towns to big cities in all states except Alaska. So we're in 49 states outside of Alaska. We have also over 1,500 businesses that we partner with that are protected by Flock. These are everything from small mom and pop shops to larger retail, as well as homeowners associations around the country as well. And we partner with law enforcement to solve over 2,800 crimes per day, about 15% of reported crime in the U.S., and that is according to a Texas Christian University independent study. So just a quick overview of what we're talking about tonight. So we are proud to be a tool for law enforcement. So we do not replace police, fire, EMS. We partner with our first responders to enable folks to do more and to do it quicker. So we see ourselves as a force multiplier, enabling agencies of all sizes to quickly solve more crime and to improve the quality of life. So again, we work with towns of under 1,000 up to big cities as well. So tonight we'll talk about the product that is called a license plate reader camera. So what these are is they are cameras that are posted in the public right-of-way that take photos of public license plates. So license plates across the country are property of the state in which they're located in. And the cameras that we have take photos of the back of a vehicle, a license plate in the public right-of-way. And the way it works is your police department will upload what we call a hot list into the system. So, for example, a license plate can be uploaded if they're involved with a homicide, all sorts of different crimes, as well as missing children and missing senior citizens. So those would be called Amber Alerts or Silver Alerts for our seniors that may go missing. And if a vehicle drives by that camera and there is a match, the police department will receive an alert about that match. If the license plate is not in that hot list system, it will not notify anyone nor provide an alert. So the police department is only getting those alerts when a plate has been uploaded as a hot plate on a hot list. So as I noted, the camera takes a picture of the back of the vehicle. So that what that camera can capture would be the vehicle make, body type, color, if there's like a rack on the back of the vehicle, as well as temporary tags and state plates. Important to note here, as your law enforcement will tell you, sometimes the folks that are committing crime will either switch plates or remove the plate entirely. And so that's why it's important that the camera can get other features of the back of the vehicle. Our cameras also operate very well in the evening. We know that not all crime happens during the day. And so the cameras are capable of catching these characteristics at night as well. So one of the components, well, we're proud of our technology and its capabilities. Since the very beginning of the company is privacy and transparency are critical not only to us, but also to our 6,000 communities across the country in which we partner with. So outlining some of the key components of our privacy and transparency, it's important to note that 100% of the data, so the photos that are taken, are owned by the customer. So they are owned and controlled by the cities and communities that we work with. We do not sell data. That is not our business model, and that is explicitly outlined in the contracts with our customers. So if you might think of a social media company or something like that that collects data on folks to then sell it, that is not what happens here. So the data is owned by our partner agencies and is not sold. Another important note here too is, for example, I noted earlier that we partner with HOAs and businesses. Important to note that they have no access to the law enforcement data or hot lists, so they are unable to access those. While it's important to keep the information for a certain period of time in case your police department needs to do an investigation, it's also important that the photos and the data is not kept for longer periods of time to ensure that we protect folks' privacy. And because of that, there is a 30-day period where after that, the photos and the data is hard deleted. So what that means is wiped from the server, so neither Flock or anybody else or the community could access that data. It is hard deleted. The 30 days really allows a window where, let's say a crime happened and it's reported 2 days, 3 days, a week later, your police department will still be able to go and find that photo. But again, if it's after the 30-day mark, it's hard deleted. There is no access to personally identifiable information. And basically what that means is, again, it's a photo of the back of the vehicle, so that does not provide who's driving, who's in the vehicle, nor does it provide information like BMV information. So as your police department does today, if they have a license plate that they are following and they want to find information about it, they have to go into their system to run the plate. That would still be the case under our cameras. Our cameras do not do that. And again, only your agency decides who to share with. So really important point to talk about, when those photos go into your listserv on the AWS server, your agency decides if you want to share access into with whom. So some agencies will share the towns around them, and the reason they do that is because crime doesn't stop at the border of your community. And so if a town next door wants to see if a vehicle that had committed a crime in one area passed through another, they can agree, both have to agree town to town to share that information. And then all the way up to a national lookup where communities can share on a national basis as well, completely up to the community on their preference. The green section to the right, again, I talked about that data storage. So while the photos are of a public plate in a public place, Flock treats that data as if it were something much more personal. So we don't have social security numbers or any of that information, but it is stored as if it is personal information. So you'll see here we are accredited by various agencies. The same line of many federal and critically important agencies do with their data. It's protected by Flock. Again, we talked about that transparency as well, really important to our company. And so you'll see some of the protocols here that we put in place to ensure that you and the community has comfort on the technology and the data. So agencies, if they wish, so communities can do what we call a transparency portal. You'll see that on the right-hand side. That's an example, San Joaquin County, California, where anyone can access that information. It's on a public web page, and it tells you exactly what the technology is, who the community is sharing it with, and all sorts of other information. So you'll see that there. We also make sure that every search requires a registered ID with a search reason or case number. Why that's important is we have what we call an audit. And so agencies can run an audit to see what activity has happened within the system. So every single time an officer in the agency goes into the system to request a plate, to upload a plate, to share information, all of that is logged into perpetuity. So while the picture of the plate and the data is deleted every 30 days, you and the community and the agency is able to go back and audit all of the activity of the system. Again, a really important component to ensure transparency. As I just talked about the search reason and user ID. So again, you'll know who searched what and for what reason. We also encourage folks to run those audits regularly so that you're ensuring that the system is being used for the right reasons, and again, to keep a level of comfort amongst the council, the city, and the community of the activity on the system. And we're also bringing forth proactive auditing to alert of potential misuse. A couple other things just to note, the company is doubling down on transparency and accountability, and you'll see here different auditing structures, limitations on sharing, as well as the company bringing on a chief legal officer to lead our compliance. We have tripled our policy headcount, and essentially what that means is we've got folks on our team that help cities navigate state law, that help cities develop their own policies to add capacity. We've also revamped our customer training, so we have a whole team here that works with towns and cities across the country for any questions that they might have. We've also added a chief product compliance officer that really works on ensuring that our products are in line with local laws and wishes. And as I noted earlier, we're bringing forth new built-in compliance protections as well. So I'll run through these quickly. Again, happy to hang out as long as you need. But just a couple of myths versus facts. So a myth being that license plate reader cameras track people and show police everywhere they go. Again, that is not true. There's a point-in-time photo of the rear of a vehicle, and the only reason the police department knows that it went by is that there is if you upload a plate and there is a notification that that specific plate drove by that camera. And again, you would upload that plate into the camera because it was related to a crime, missing child, or maybe a senior with cognitive challenges. Myth, LPRs violate the Fourth Amendment. So courts across the country, federal appellate courts have held that that license plate reader technology, so Flock, but also other companies, does not violate the Fourth Amendment. So again, we talked about selling customer data or a national database. So your community owns 100% of your data, completely controls whether you share that with the towns around you, the state, national network, totally up to you. And again, that data is deleted after 30 days. We already talked about our private customers that can't access the law enforcement data. So facial recognition, our products do not use facial recognition and cannot be sourced for human characteristics. So we do not do that. You can't say, hey, is there somebody with blonde hair or anything like that. The product does not do that. And we also talked about the personally identifiable information, which, again, we back of the car plate, back of the car characteristics, and nothing about the person who's driving or their record or anything like that. A couple of just quick ones here. We've been acknowledged by, for example, the Oakland NAACP for being objective evidence. So just the photos of the vehicle provide more objective evidence and reduce bias. And we know by our partners across the country, those 6,000 communities, that LPRs are extremely important to solving crime. Not only solving crime, but also reducing the time to solve a crime. And if we talk to our law enforcement partners, how critical time can be when it comes to a serious crime. So we're proud of the real-life impact the company has across the country. So I won't read these for you, but you can just see various examples across the country of how our technology is used by hardworking law enforcement to crack down on crime. Locally in Florida, Over 160 law enforcement agencies use Flock and trust it every single day. You'll see a few examples on your screen. A couple quick examples of the technology, real-life examples in Florida. So you'll see one here in Florida City PD regarding an abduction, attempted abduction, where Flock technology identified the individual and arrested a suspect. So I won't read through all this, but you can see that there. Also, a wanted homicide suspect arrested in Palm Bay in April of last year. So a recent homicide suspect using our cameras, they were successfully arrested. And again, Florida City PD as well, a child abduction actually foiled after an LPR alert. So a case study just to point out here and kind of illustrate the value of the product. This is a real story out of Georgia. You'll see mom and her baby there. So in 2020, there was a random abduction of a baby. So this was not an individual that knew mom. It was a complete random abduction. At 12:33, after notifying police, an Amber Alert was issued. 1:01 p.m., the police department was able to search the Flock safety network. 2:30 p.m., the suspect vehicle was located. So again, they would have put that plate into the system. Vehicle drove by the camera pinged the plate. At 5:03 p.m., officers were able to physically locate the vehicle, make a felony stop, and arrest that individual. And at 6 p.m., that beautiful baby was reunited with mom. And I can't imagine, most likely people would have stayed for life. But thankfully, due to the hard work of law enforcement, as well as our technology, that beautiful baby was returned to mom. So I talked a little bit too about the Fourth Amendment, but again, courts across the country have held that license plate technology is not in violation of the Fourth Amendment. And just some of our partners, and I really think these speak to the work that law enforcement does and how we support that. So the National Center for Missing and Endangered Children is a strong supporter of our company because of the children we've been able to help bring home. Mothers Against Drunk Driving is also a large supporter of the company. And we've also been recognized, for example, as I noted earlier, by the NAACP, a chapter in Oakland for reducing bias in law enforcement. And that's all I got for my presentation. Happy to take any questions.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Council members, do you have any questions? You can. Councilman Bowden.
All right, Mr. McCormick, thank you for your presentation. I do have a few questions for you. I'm not sure if you can answer all of them, but I'd like to just kind of put these out there and kind of see what comes back. Okay.
Absolutely.
You mentioned that for these LPRs, it's really just a vehicle fingerprint, if you will. And I'm curious on why, when we look at the patent for these cameras, it also includes body characteristics of people. And so it's kind of conflicting to me. If we're looking at license plates and public documents, as your slide shows, then why did we also patent for human characteristics?
Yeah, really good question. So tonight we're talking about license plate reader cameras. Flock also has live cameras. It's a different product that can do things, for example, like when someone walks through a park, it can detect the movement of someone in the park, and then it will trigger the camera. That is a live camera, though, not a license plate reader. The license plate reader is a point-in-time photo of the back of a vehicle. So those are two different products.
Would that be, so you're talking about the Falcon camera? Would be the LPRs?
Right.
And the live footage, it would be the, I guess your newest product would be the Condor camera, is that correct?
Right, the PTZ cameras or the live cameras, right? That's a different product than the LPR.
Okay. Can you speak to, since we're on the LPR and license plate on public roadways, can you speak to the partnership, the newly formed partnership between Flock and Ring Cameras?
Yeah, absolutely. So Flock is in a partnership with Ring, and the way that works is individuals who own a Ring camera, if they wish, can opt into a network, so completely opt-in required, in which if there is a crime, let's say a crime on a certain block, they'll receive a push notification that will say, hey, in your area, there was a armed robbery. Would you like to provide your Ring footage to the police department, pertaining to that incident? But again, that is a opt-in only system through the user, and requires, again, they would receive a notification if they'd like to provide that footage.
Okay, I just didn't see that in your slides at all. Can you speak to two-factor authentication for logins?
Absolutely. So the two-factor or multi-factor authentication is a practice used by all sorts of technology. So I'm sure you've run into it where you've had to send a message to your phone or your email to authorize it was you. That is a standard, our standard of practice with our customers. 97% of our customers use multi-factor authentication. There is a small percentage of mostly rural folks that don't have the technology, that have not yet adopted it, and we're working with them to do so. But that is our baseline standard to have MFA active.
Okay, one of the things I did not see in your slide was the footage that you guys get, and what you're stating is the still shot in time, a record in time, and maybe not in Florida yet, but can you speak to the fact that is that or is that not an opportunity for public record?
So the short answer is it completely depends on the state. So public records laws are regulated by the state. Certain states do include LPR as a public record. For example, the state of Washington. Other states have other policies, and some completely remove it as a public record. So the honest answer is I'd have to look up the Florida law to answer that accurately.
Okay. And the reason I asked that question is because throughout your presentation, you gave us data of the state of Virginia, state of Georgia, and stuff like that. So I just didn't see anything pertaining to the state of Florida. And we know state by state, that's obviously their right.
And Councilman, I'll make sure to get that information over to you.
Okay. I do want to put it on record that, look, there is no denying that there are some good opportunities with this product, and it has helped crime and law enforcement, and absolutely. But I do want to say that you are a private entity, you are in business, and every business is in business to make money. And so upon the research that I did with Flock, I found it very interesting that there was a gentleman who was a former board member of a very large social media company who was also in the middle of an $8 billion privacy violation release. And so as hard as you guys try for transparency and not releasing of information and doing the wrong thing, things happen. And I just want to make sure that Flock, I guess, you're in business for law enforcement and safety, and you're not in business to make money, right? And that's, I can't answer that. You guys would have to answer that. Interestingly enough, in the research as well, there was a website, and it was interesting to see that Clay actually has greater than 90 of these cameras already in our county. Not in the town of Orange Park, but in Clay County itself. Interestingly enough, Duval County has less than 50. And if you don't know, Flock was intended, they started out with big box stores for safety. And every one of you who have gone to Lowe's has your license plate taken. It is at the entrance of Lowe's. It is at the corner of Blanding and Kingsley. And I only say that because it's close to home, right? And so I get it. It's public property. It's probably, kudos for them because I'm tired of paying higher prices for materials, but it's out there. And so there is potential for good. There's also potential for bad. And so, I listened to this presentation about how the information collected is our information, and that sounds great, but it's not on our local servers. It's on your servers. And so, is it deleted after 30 days? No one knows but internal Flock. So, those are just a few of the questions that I have. Obviously, more deep dive to come, but I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman Vogel. Anyone else have any questions? Vice Mayor.
Good evening, Mr. McCormack. I want to ask questions. What I see on the internet about Flock has everything to do with people able to access that information, access what is being taken within that 30 days as public information. And there's a real concern, and I share that concern, about, do I really want some stranger? It's one thing for law enforcement to do it for safety, but how do we prevent, and how do you prevent, if it's stored on your servers in your cloud, how do you prevent me, not me personally, because I'm not quite capable of that. There's somebody in this audience tonight that can do it, to go out there and find that website and go on and see and look at what pictures have been taken in the last 30 days. How is that stopped?
Yeah, great question, Vice Mayor. Thank you for that. So just as a clarifying point, our company and our detractors too would confirm that we've never been hacked. So our data systems, our data sets, those photos are in a cloud used by the Department of Defense and by major agencies that have much more sensitive information than we do. And so we have never been hacked. There was a video on the internet about a gentleman who got hold of one of our cameras and pulled it apart. But he was able to essentially get to the factory settings and not to databases of individual towns or communities' information. So even he did not get to the critical information on our servers. So again, that's why, as I put in that slide earlier, even though it's a public plate in a public place, it's not sensitive information, we still treat it with the highest security levels possible, and that's why you saw all that there. And Vice Mayor, I'll just speak to my time as a councilman in Cleveland. Our city hall had social security numbers and birth certificates and death certificates and all sorts of stuff on our servers, much more sensitive information. And I wasn't a tech guru at the city, but I know that City Hall had really sensitive information. We don't have that. We just have the public photos but we treat it as if it is sensitive information. The other thing I'll note real quickly to answer your question in another light, that's why it's so important too, that those audits are there and that communities, again, we encourage folks to regularly provide audits on their system. That's going to show you who accessed it for what, and each agency will designate usually a small number of folks within the agency that has the ability to access those images. And so, you know, I'm sure your chief will identify a few people that will have that access. Outside of those folks, no one else would have access.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else?
I just have a few.
Okay, Councilman Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Carrie. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful, thank you. A little probably colder up here than it is down there, but I'm doing great.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. So I probably start off as I would like to adopt, and I agree with Councilman Bowen's comments and position on this. And I'm sure, I don't think there's anybody, at least I'd be happy to challenge anybody in this room, but I don't think there's anybody stronger for law enforcement than I am. I was a former prosecutor, and I consider myself tough on crime. However, mass surveillance is just a problem. And you're a great guy, and you were a city councilman, and I'm sure you're honorable, and I have nothing but the highest regard for our police chief and everybody in this room. But I think it's ripe for abuse. And I still have an open mind as to this issue, but it would have been nice to maybe have copies of your handouts on the slides. You know, I looked at that privacy page that you had. You can put that back up, maybe. If your guy or girl there can.
Yep, in one quick second. All right. Can you see it?
Yeah, I just have problems with every one of those issues. Never sold, that's today. Private coverage, hacking, I mean, Sony gets hacked. I would think Flock would be just as easy. So do the banks, so does the government. Deletes data after 30 days. You know, I hope nobody out there lies. And it's ripe for expansion and abuse. So, I mean, I'd love to hear maybe an opposing point of view other than the representative of Flock Cameras make a presentation here, which couldn't be today. But I would welcome that type of a presentation. But I do thank you for your time, and I think y'all have the potential to do good, and maybe it's not today or tomorrow, but maybe it's in the future sometime. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. If I could just briefly, really appreciate those comments, and quite frankly, this is an important conversation between public safety and privacy. And I'll just note that, you know, our 6,000 communities across the country, I think, are the best proof that this is working well. There is a handful of examples where human beings did the wrong thing, and we encourage when that happens that they are full. As a prosecutor, you'll appreciate that they are identified and fully prosecuted for that. As you know, that happens without our technology or with our technology. But outside of the handful examples, 6,000 communities every single day in America use our technology lawfully within the bounds of the contract terms and have incredible impact on bringing children home and solving crime. So hear your concerns loud and clear, but just wanted to note, put it in the context, the fact that, you know, we've got wonderful law enforcement in cities and communities across the country that are using this every day, and it's making a big impact. So really important questions, and appreciate that feedback.
Thank you.
Okay,
I do have one question, Mr. Mayor.
go ahead.
Mr. McCormick, thank you for joining us. Would you consider Flock to be financially stable at this point?
Yes, for me, but I am not on our board of directors or on our finance team, but yes, from a layman's perspective, I would say yes.
Yeah, so my concern, maybe that's true today, probably true today, but it might not always be true. And the risk exists, we're looking at this page of the PowerPoint. All of these rules exist today. They can be changed. And let's say Flock becomes no longer financially viable or gets bought out. There's no real assurance that the people that buy Flock or the data that Flock owns, if they fold, won't be sold. I think it's one of those things where in the beginning, Flock says, hey, we're not going to do any of this stuff. But if times got tough or if government pushed hard enough, maybe the rules changed. And I love the idea that it's doing good things. I'm afraid of the power of it, and I think there's one thing pretty solid with government. If you give government power, it's going to be very hard to take it away.
Thank you. I would just note, for sure, and, it's important to note that, these terms are written into the contracts. So if it hasn't happened, and I don't see it happening, but if those terms were ever broken, obviously that's a broken contract. And we also pride ourselves is that we have to earn our community's businesses on a regular basis. So, depending on the contracts, we have to come back to you with a renewal to re-earn your business and to have in that period of time, prove that it was a useful tool. So these are not, contracts into perpetuity or anything like that. But I think the reason that, law enforcement agencies are bringing these in front of city councils all over the country is because of how impactful they are.
Yeah.
And the other thing I'll do is we encourage folks to adopt what are called LPR policies. So council could, if they wish, develop a policy that really outlines the parameters and vote it into law as well. That's just another option for councils.
Yeah, and I love the idea that these are helping solve crime and reduce crime. I'm just afraid of government power. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I just have some pros and cons I want to go over. I've gone through the pros of this as far as crime prevention, community safety reports, sharing of data throughout the different communities, vehicle focused, but I want to focus on some cons that are out there. And I just want to make some things clear. One of the cons that I read is even though the data is stored only temporarily for 30 days, there are concerns about people accessing it after the fact. So that's one. Crime rates did not drop long term. So that's two. There's no uniform standards for the data use, retention, public notice, or oversight. So there's three big concerns I have, and can you tell me what you've done to work with those concerns?
Yeah, thank you. Really good questions. The first one I would note, and I can send to the council, I'm not an engineer, but I can get you the full kind of nerdy computer engineer process of hard deleting the data, but it is hard deleted after 30 days. And again, I can send over more information about exactly from a computer engineering perspective how that happens. The other thing I would note is we don't own crime stats. The communities that we work with own and manage their own crime stats. So we don't have a national database of crime statistics. But what we know is when we talk to agencies that we use, and over 800 this year, I guess last year, 2025, either renewed or joined with Flock, are doing so because they're seeing a meaningful difference on the ground. I'll tell you, where I live in Cleveland, if you talk to our chief or police officers, they'll tell you how this tool has significantly helped them. So definitely refer to your law enforcement partners and get those examples of that as well. Remind me of the third one, sir, I'm sorry.
The third one was, there's no uniform standards for data use, the retention of it, public notice or oversight.
Yep, and so this is, so our general retention period we recommend is 30 days. That is not universal because certain states by law require a different number, or certain communities may ask for a different number. So that is intentionally not universal. Also, the public records laws, as I noted earlier, are different state by state. And so the way that public records are disseminated, the way that the period of time in which the data is kept may vary state to state based on state law. So that's one of the things we're actually proud of, is of local control of these levers. So we want our local communities to be in control of that, and for Flock to come in and say, you have to do it all our way. So that's actually something that we're proud of, and also to note, a lot of that is because of state compliance.
Okay, you made a comment about local control. I assume local control means we're logging onto your server to pull the information?
Correct.
So I don't consider that as local control. Local control means I'm controlling it all, in my eyes. To me, you still have control here, and I'm just using your control. But I have another question for you.
Sure.
Mistakes with the system. I've been reading about false positives or database errors that have led to wrongful police stops or tracking.
Yep, so our system, depending on the product, I believe the baseline is a 94% accuracy rate. Some of the products are even better. And that's why a couple things. When a license plate is identified, we heavily encourage the local police department to verify that plate before they initiate a stop. So if they get a ping for a blue Chevy, ABC 123, officer identifies a blue Chevy, we again recommend that they visually confirm that vehicle prior to making a stop. There are, again, a handful of examples across the country out of thousands of use around the country a day. So the system is not 100% perfect, although we work towards that every day. But what we know is it's a lot more accurate than just kind of general, visual eyes and identifications. So.
Okay, one last question
Sure.
about the data itself. Our county has Flock cameras. They can give us permissions to use their data, correct?
Correct. They would have to give permission.
Okay, so would our information that we're collecting, if someone is in Alabama and this car is flagged over there, they would only know that it's flagged if we've given the permissions on that vehicle, correct?
Exactly right. Sharing permissions.
So sharing the permissions would be only a local thing, unless the government stepped in and made it and provided it for everyone.
No, so you control who shares your data. So you could say we don't want to share it with anyone. You could say we want to share it with towns within a 20-mile radius of us. We want to share it with the county, the state, nationally. That's completely under the control of your community. So to your example, sir, that would probably reference if you opted into a national lookup, that someone in Alabama or Michigan could access that information. But those are decisions that are made by each community.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Town Attorney, do you have anything?
Actually, through the mayor to the council, I did have just a couple of points on some of the public records questions. that Councilmember Vogel, asked, just for information for the council. So Florida law, we do have a statute, it's 316.0777, that addresses automatic license plate recognition systems. So know that you would be entering into a contract that is still subject to our Florida laws, but also regulate the use of a license plate recognition system. And in the body of this Florida law, just to be clear, agencies, which would include law enforcement agencies like the town of Orange Park's Police Department, by law can only use it for purposes of collecting active criminal intelligence information or active criminal investigative information. So just want you to understand, by law, you can only use this information for what our statutes tell us that you can use it for, and that's for criminal intelligence information. The other aspect in this same section 316.0777 speaks to public records. And so the state of Florida, we do have a public records exemption that makes some of this material confidential and exempt. And so the images and data that contains any personal identifying information obtained through the use of this system is confidential and exempt. So if someone were to say, hey, Courtney, please send me all the images and data that were received in the last 30 days, the town clerk's answer should be no, because under Florida statutes, this is confidential and exempt information. The other point that it states that personal identifying information of an individual and data generated or resulting from images obtained through the use of this system is also exempt. So images and data from the system and personal identifying information from the system are exempt. There are a few exceptions. If you're the person that's registered to the license plate, you obviously can get access to this data. And then this data, as the representative shared, can be shared with other criminal investigative agencies. So that's a conversation about the public records, which, as the representative said, is dependent on the state. The questions that Councilwoman Vice Mayor asked was getting towards cybersecurity. That's a whole different issue. That has nothing to do with an individual asking the town for information. That's public records discussion. Cybersecurity is something that obviously we need to make sure that the vendor has proper measures in place. And one of the things, when I was quickly perusing through the current version of the contract, in addition to all the other measures that the vendor can use to protect those types of data breaches, we may want to, as a town, require the vendor to also have cybersecurity insurance, something that's currently not in the contract that's on the table, but that would be another measure to help ward against those types of breaches. Okay, so that's all I have.
Got it, thank you. Okay,
May I ask one more question?
go ahead, Vice.
Thank you. I apologize. The other comments from the mayor prompted a question that's sort of been rolling in my mind. When we talk about who we can share our data with, if in fact because our town is located in the Clay County, and we already know that our county already has block cameras, and therefore it would be easy for us to agree to share data with our county and vice versa. But let's say the county grants permission to, I don't know, the State Highway Patrol to do that. Do we have to grant to have the access? Can the State Highway Patrol access the Orange Park data because of their access through Clay County, or do they have to have a separate contract with Orange Park?
That's right, there's no pass-through authority,
Okay,
because of that.
okay. All right. And you have system checks and balances in place to do that?
And you can see through those audits exactly who has accessed what, when, and who did it for what reason. That's exactly right. And you could download those audits every single day if you wanted to.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, town manager, do you have any questions for him before I let him go? None at this time. Okay, got it. Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you.
Happy New Year, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, got it. Thank you. Okay, before we move on, I've got some speaker sheets on this. Madison Hilt.
Madison Hill, 2272 Orange Avenue. Y'all already have the 2 fact sheets that I gave. First, to Mr. Taylor's point, I worked professionally in this sphere for almost 8 years for Clay County. If y'all want a presentation, I would be more than happy to compile a presentation, from the other side presentation on why we shouldn't do these cameras, and present it to council. So I'm going to repudiate a few points that Mr. McCormick made. The whole myth versus fact thing. While you're not notified about hits of vehicles that pass by the cameras, every single vehicle that passes by the camera is still saved in Flock's database for the specified amount of time, in which somebody can later go and look up on a list. Right for abuse. Not being tied to plates can easily lead to unwarranted searches. I think this is what he was getting at with a few bad individuals that we know of that have made it to the press, that have actually blown up in the press. There have been quite a few instances of people getting falsely arrested, falsely accused, because the cameras paired their vehicle to a crime, not necessarily to the license plate. For example, there was a lady in a Rivian in Colorado that was accused of package theft off the front porch, and that links into that Ring camera thing. It was a Ring camera and their plate camera, or their LPR, that made that arrest happen. The only reason her case did not go further is because she just so happened to have an electric vehicle that had 10 cameras around it that was recording what she was doing at all times, and that led to that officer being fired. But that is where we're getting rife for abuse, or rife for, I shouldn't even say abuse, a misstep. You're going to go where the evidence leads you. If you think the evidence leads you in one direction, you're going to be biased. I mean, look at how far our criminal justice system goes in conviction rates versus innocence rates. Flock's default contract shares data with every single agency nationwide. So if y'all do vote on this, please take a look at that. Please restrict it. Flock has undergone public audits, notably by the Illinois Secretary of State's office and the ACLU, which have revealed in their audits data sharing violations. So Flock tells you they're going to do one thing, and then they violate that. Specifically in Washington, they were sharing data with Customs and Border Patrol without the agency's knowledge. They have never had an external independent third-party audit, so all of the audits that they're doing are either agencies going into their database themselves or are people that they hire to do an audit. There's never been somebody outside that they've allowed access to. Their major investor for startup was Peter Thiel of Palantir, and if y'all have seen him in the news, I'm sure you know. Can we really trust what they say when they have failed audits and they haven't allowed external audits to come in? And as a matter of fact, when companies and groups have tried to come in and show people where their cameras are, they've issued cease and desists and tried to do lawsuits against them. Flock has, despite him telling you that they take camera images right now, Flock actually has plans that they announced in Q2 of 2025 to add video capabilities to these cameras. So I think y'all may not be getting the full truth. Y'all may be getting a sales pitch. The man that hacked the Flock camera did it in under 5 minutes, and the thing that was left out of there was that he was able to root the device, which means he was able to get base-level access to it. And I don't know if don't quote me on this because I need to go back at the video and look, but I'm pretty sure he was able to get it to send pictures to somewhere that wasn't Flock. So imagine somebody sneaking up behind a camera, popping the button off, and doing that. So that's something they need to fix. There are systems that are comparable that allow you to have complete local control, such as Genetec. That was the system that the county ran before Michelle Cook got into bed with Flock. That is something that you can have a server in the server rack in your fire station or wherever, and you can store all the video footage locally and actually control who gets it. what you can legally do with these cameras and what is said to be happening with these cameras based on independent reports and audits are two separate things as far as active investigation and everything. Also, the NAACP endorsement, that is one local branch of the NAACP. The Electronic Frontier Foundation, the ACLU, and Restore the Fourth have both said that these cameras are terrible, and I agree as a professional. Thank you.
Got it. Thank you, Maddie. Echo Nova.
I am Echo Nova, address on file. Growing up, dystopia was a major part of young adult literature and media. This was around the time of like the Hunger Games and all of those, like the Maze Runner and all of those kind of things. And a very distinguished particular hallmark of many of these was some type of system of mass surveillance. And these flock cameras and other things like them are a very prime example of this mass surveillance. Systems like these normalize some very dangerous ideas, including that mass surveillance should be somewhat normalized and acceptable, that AI is appropriate to make calls on human life, and that policing has to be increased constantly in order to make our community safe, when in fact there are other methods of making communities safe as well. My primary concern is with the communities that have been directly attacked by those in power. For example, the immigrant communities in other states, people who may need abortions or health care otherwise, people of color. All of these have been attacked as of very recently across the nation and at all levels of government. And we as a local community need to protect those vulnerable within our own communities as much as possible, so that there is at least one safe space for people to live. For example, our law enforcement already has to work with ICE, and we have a concentration camp up in Baker County, one in South Florida, and 2 more being planned in the state. How can we know that our neighbors are not being targeted through this very system? Because let us not forget that the Supreme Court itself said that it is okay to racially profile people and now people off the streets. We have seen in other states attempts to prosecute people for getting health care going across state lines. Systems like these would make it easier for those bad actors in power to target the people who need to take care of their very human needs. And the impact of this mass surveillance doesn't just affect the most vulnerable communities, but everyone. There was an officer in Texas who used his system to stalk and harass his ex, just because he could. An analysis has shown that hundreds of searches were made targeting everyday normal citizens of the U.S. Who have attended protests over the past few months, standing in solidarity with our vulnerable communities. In a country that has made it its mission to attack anyone who has opposed leadership, and in a state that has made it a mission to attack the local government officials who step out of line, how can we trust any branch of government to have this sort of power? And furthermore, there's just a massive failure in ethics by the company and the industry as a whole. But as it should be to no surprise, as many of these technologies have been tested at the U.S. southern border against our native populations in Gaza and other areas of violence and struggle. So we must oppose any method of mass surveillance, including things like the flock cameras.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to item 5, audience comments on non-agenda items. Tara Hamilton.
Tara Hamilton, 107 River Road, situational awareness. So I brought a situation to you and made you aware of it. About the town has a massive open drain tank holder on Old Orange Park Road, and it is forever full of water. It's not covered at all. I talked to you about, any child could fall in there and drown. There's multiple children at the St. John's Apartments. It's wide open. If I had told you a puppy was stuck in there, would you have, made a grate and had it covered yet? So also I'm kind of laughing to myself about public records requests, because I asked for public records requests for all the work that's been done in Holly Point East, which I was charged over $1,000 for 25 hours to locate them, which I have them here, and I want them entered into public records so everybody could see what a joke this is and how much it costs to have grates made. So this whole town should be covered with stormwater maintenance, because, and I didn't even get everything I requested. And I think we need to talk to administration, because there's like 4 and 5 duplicates of multiple things, but it's gonna be entered into public records so everybody can see what's going on. And you need to be aware of the situation. You have a massive holding tank with no grate, and it's full of filth. It goes into the St. John's, and it's a danger to the public. So,
Which side of the road is it on?
right across from the Hilton.
Okay, got it. Town manager, can we look into that, please? Okay, George Bush.
That's not even all of it. So I'm just gonna start bringing the pictures and turning them into records.
George Bush.
Good evening, council. George Bush, 2303 Clark Street, Orange Park, 50-year resident. This is my backyard back in late October. We have eagles, we have all kind of wild animals out there. I'm concerned because the town of Orange Park proposes to be a tree city, but yet the town of Orange Park allows its public works department to continuously cut down trees in our parks and clear cut the road off of Highway 17 by the doctor's office buildings over here. So if we're going to be a tree city, let's be a tree city. If I wanted to cut down a tree in my yard, I would have to come and get a permit. Is that being done? Can somebody answer that? And the last question I would have, and I would ask you, Mayor, about that. Have you got any response on that question?
I haven't.
Okay, and the last thing is, I understand that the Public Works Department is sizing up for massive bathrooms at the park, at Bradley Park. I would like to know how much work has been done on that and who authorized that to be done, because I don't know if you as a city council have approved that at this time, or have you?
Oh, George, we haven't approved anything for bathrooms.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure. Okay, Zach?
Good evening. My name is Zach Howard. I'm here to speak about the flock cameras. Am I in the right?
Yeah, you can just.
Okay, good. Yeah, so a couple of things to hit on. I think all of you have made some really good points and asked some good questions. And I think one of the big things it comes down to is trust, right? Like we said, these servers are not stored locally. It's nice to know that there's an option where they could be. Seems like an obvious, better alternative to Flock. But yeah, should we trust these people and take them at their word? Their founder, you can look it up. He has a Forbes interview. He's very loud and proud, and they're obviously saying we can eliminate crime. I don't have his exact words written down, but basically he thinks that crime is just a problem that can be solved with technology. And that sounds very utopian to me. A lot of the comments already made about surveillance state. I think it's worse than naive. It just sounds like somebody like, I don't trust him. I don't trust this guy, and I really don't trust the founder. And that's what it comes down to. You just have to take them at their word that they're doing the right thing now, and that they will always do the right thing. And I don't think we should trust them. The board member who's like got busted for violating a privacy agreement, that's a huge red flag. I don't know the specific person, but that should be looked at if you're considering moving forward with this. A couple things about what he said that I want to mention. I don't know the specific thing he said, but he said something about, like, we use the same cloud that the DoD uses or something like that. I'm like, that's exactly who I don't want accessing this data, is the federal government. So I'm not sure exactly what he meant by that, but that's concerning to me. Regarding the state statute about PII, I actually have a friend, because this is in Okaloosa County, these cameras, and he put in a public records request for the flock data and the license plate readers, and the attorney read the statute that said it can't be shared because it has PII, but he just said they don't capture PII. So to me, if it's just if it doesn't have PII, why can't we look at it? They responded to my friend and said you can't access it because of this statute, which has PII, personally identifiable information. So to me, I mean, maybe the sheriff's office should share it, but I think it probably does have personally identifiable information. I mean, if a kid's in the back seat and they turn around and look when the camera's taking the picture, there's going to be a kid's face there. And again, when you think about trust, not just storing the server data, but the person who comes and installs this camera and brings this camera in, like, they probably work for Flock, or they send in the cameras from Flock. Like, who's to say that the cameras that we're putting up are the cameras that only get the plate and don't capture other stuff? Like, they've said they have the technology that does facial recognition and body movements, all that stuff. Like, we're just assuming that we're putting up the cameras that don't scan people's faces. Again, this is all just stuff that we should be concerned about. I've got a couple notes here. One thing I definitely want to say is that I think we should definitely not have slot cameras, but I think we should also consider not just saying no to flock cameras, but trying to go on the offensive and put in protections that prevent any kind of technology like this from being installed and used here, and kind of think in terms of, yeah, we don't want this here, but also how can we make sure that this doesn't ever happen in Orange Park? How can we make sure that SWAT cameras and anything with this kind of utopian surveillance state technology is not permitted here, and put in kind of some kind of ordinance around that. I think that's all I wanted to say. I mean, yeah, I mean, I think most of what I've already said, what I was going to say has already been mentioned, just about, like, this stuff's all in Hollywood movies and books, and they've been talking about this for a long, long time. And, you could just say they're trying to make a compelling story, but, like, you watch those movies and it's horrifying to think about that, but we are the frogs in the boiling pot. The water's getting warmer, and, it doesn't seem like the movie stage yet, but it's definitely warming up, and it seems like in our lifetimes we could be in some of those places, but we have an opportunity to kind of resist that here, so thank you.
Got it, thank you. Tracy Hawk.
Good evening. My name is Tracy Houck, and I live at 1204 Orange Circle North, Orange Park, Florida. I've lived there 43 years, and my husband's lived there, I think, 62. There's a project that is going on. I think everybody is aware of it. First of all, I wanted to say thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, councilmen and women, attorney, and Kyle, the public management. Thank you. There's two proposals apparently on the table, I guess, and we hope that our street and everyone is involved in getting together with all of you to work that out. We do not want the sidewalks. We do not want the traffic flow change. We don't want the trees cut down. We really just want the town to spend the money on the infrastructure, just fixing the sewer. And if anything were to happen to our sprinkler systems aligning on Blake, that they would just be fixed only because it was just torn up in the road, when they tore up for the sewer. So we don't want I'm going to repeat myself a lot because I just have to get my point across. We don't want any of that, and we don't know how it came to be that, like how it came to only be two projects, potentially pick one, when we didn't want any of it. We just fixed the sewer, and that was going to happen regardless. And the other people that live by me will definitely show up. I told them I would come tonight and be the spokesperson tonight, but they all have probably emailed most of you. And also I want to thank Councilman Vogel, because right at the Christmas time, you had a meeting, the council meeting here, and you had asked in that meeting, because I watched it online, and you said, how come there's no representatives from Blake here? And we didn't know. We just didn't know. So we don't want to be overlooked. Please keep us in mind. Please keep including us, but we don't want any of that. So thank you very much.
Got it, Tracy. Sandra.
Thank you, Mayor. Sandra DiGiovanni, 2362 Egremont Drive. I'm here tonight to give you a recap of our Wreaths Across America event that we had in December. A special thank you to Courtney, our town clerk, who seemed to be able to put things on social media in a wonderful way and bring out a lot of people. So, special shout out, though, to our ceremonial wreath presenters. They like to hear their names mentioned. Zachary Bryan presented the wreath for U.S. Army. Joshua Jeffries did the U.S. Navy. Peyton Cooper, she did the U.S. Air Force. Maya Wolf, the U.S. Space Force. Master Sergeant Wood did the POW MIA. Corporal Moore, the U.S. Marine Corps. Sergeant Tucker, the U.S. Coast Guard. Michael Maxfield presented the wreaths to all of the individual presenters, and he did the U.S. Merchant Marines. Once again, we had a number of groups that came out to place the wreaths. Rotary Club Orange Park Sunrise, Boy Scout Troop 25, Girl Scout Troop 31020, 4-H Oakleaf Trailblazers, Cub Scout Pack 25, Elevated CPA, and we could not have done it without the Black Creek Young Marines. They are the first Florida Regiment Unit of the Year. This group has been our color guard for 4 years. Each year they seem to outdo themselves. The color guard participants this year were Corporal DeGeorge, Lance Corporal Wood, Lance Corporal Tuff, and Private Wood. Also, thank you to all the businesses, nonprofits, and individuals who donated this year. Anthony's Gourmet Catering, Gordon Glass, D.G. Perry, Wilson Electric, Dairy Queen, who is probably one of the best business partner a community could have, VFW 5968, Allstate Roderick Crab, American Legion Post 250, F&W Forestry, Elevated CPA, Fleet Reserve West Jacks Branch 126, Neil and Carol Burrow, which are right here in this audience, HCA Florida Orange Park. I twist their arm every year because I volunteer for 13 years there. Rotary Club Sunrise again, Paul Goodyear, he brings his group every year. Carrie Patash and Kelly Seeley, individuals who have come out all 4 years to participate. Historical Society of Orange Park, Garden Club of Orange Park. Thank you to Alan Watt for helping bring the ceremony together. Special thank you to Jacksonville Memory Garden, Wreaths Across America event for its timely flyover. Lastly, of course, I have to thank my husband. He only irritated me a couple of times, so it was a good event, good day. But to the town of Orange Park, Moose Haven, for allowing us to have this event for the last 4 years. we look forward to continuing the partnership in the future. So thank you.
Got it. Thank you, Sandra. James Gill.
Good evening. I'm James Gill. I live on Oak Court here in the town, and I'm a pastor of a congregation that meets here in the town. And I appreciate the opportunity to address you regarding the matter of the license plate readers. And I want to just thank you all for your service to our community and let you know that our church prays for you all regularly because of the weighty responsibilities that you bear. License plate readers are marketed as a way to reduce crime, and what local civic leader could be opposed to that, right? Ensuring the safety of this town is one of your primary responsibilities, and I appreciate your desire to uphold law and order. But the use of technology often creates as many problems as it solves. Every decision in life involves a trade-off. There are no pure solutions. Can flock cameras help solve some crimes? Certainly, but at what cost? What are we willing to sacrifice? What are the risks? Are the advantages greater than the disadvantages? I submit that they are not. So I offer two major reasons to reject the use of mass surveillance. First, the presumption of innocence is a core principle of our legal system, which comes straight from Holy Scripture, not because all men are inherently virtuous. No, the presumption of innocence is based on the presupposition that human justice is imperfect because we are not God. We are not omniscient. We don't know everything. We can't catch every criminal, and we might falsely convict some who are not criminals at all. The presumption of innocence holds that it's better to let some of the guilty go free than to wrongfully punish the innocent. Because if innocent people are punished, despite their best attempts to keep the law, then they will eventually get fed up with trying to keep the law. When governments implement draconian regulations and restrictions in an attempt to reduce and prevent crime, those regulations and restrictions almost always punish and demoralize law-abiding citizens, not the criminals. The second major reason to reject mass surveillance is the complete lack of transparency and accountability at the local level, or in regards to what Flock does on their end. When large tech companies amass personal information without warrants, there's no way to know what they'll do with that data and to whom they'll sell that data. They are a business. They need to make money. Surely you can understand, and I know many of you do, why conscientious citizens would be concerned about the misuse of their personal information. There have been so many examples in recent years, government agencies and tech companies working in conjunction with government agencies, surveilling U.S. citizens without search warrants, and selling our personal information. For example, 23andMe is currently being sued because they went into bankruptcy and sold personal genetic information of their 15 million customers, which they promised they would never, ever do. But when they were forced to sell off assets to pay their debts, they sold their customers' information. Flock promises complete transparency and accountability, but that assumes that nothing bad could ever happen. Nobody could ever hack their systems. No other company could ever acquire Flock and their data. So what would you do? What would the council be left to do if we found out we got the cameras, God forbid, and we found out next year that Flock had been misusing our data? What's our recourse? To rip out millions of dollars worth of shiny new surveillance cameras, or what? We don't know. It is your job to provide for the safety and security of this community, and I commend you for pursuing that goal. But mass surveillance is not the way to do that. I believe it would do more harm than good, because the likelihood of abuse and misuse is not worth the potential benefits. Thank you.
Got it. Thank you so much. David Coughlin.
Good evening. This is regarding Flock as well. What do we call a person who compiles the habits, preferences, and movements of a private citizen? We call such persons stalkers. What do we call a government that compiles the habits, preferences, and movements of the citizens to which it is subject? We call such governments police states. This mass surveillance network vastly exceeds the requirements to quickly identify a malicious actor passing through Orange Park. This mass surveillance network is ideally suited for population control without regard for constitutional norms. It would be nice to know who is advocating for this instrument of oppression here in Orange Park. And it would be nice to know what rigor underpins this grand scheme. And thank you.
Thank you, David. Chuck Lindholm.
Chuck Lindholm, 644 Nelson. Mr. Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, Council, Attorney. Town Manager, good to see you. First meeting this year. We haven't met, but it's a pleasure, and it is the new year, so thank you. I've been out of town for a couple weeks, and commenting earlier, Mr. Bush made a comment about the trees. I got to tell you, I want to make a note, pass a frustration. Driving back into my neighborhood, which you guys know is along Bradley Park, which is a nature conservatory. It's supposed to offer habitat. It's supposed to offer, nature. It's not supposed to be touched. There's a tree there that has been felled. I took the opportunity today because I knew I wanted to come over here and express some frustration, but it's over 4 feet in girth. I mean, I had an opportunity 2 years ago to express some frustration when the city cut down 72 trees in Bradley Park, prepping it for God knows what. It was contested and said that, there's only 27, that, they were diseased, they were invasive species, everything was marked, and yet we found out that some were marked, some weren't marked, stuff that was supposed to be saved was cut, stuff that should have been cut was left standing. I had the opportunity today because I've got some moss that's just overgrown some trees to bring in Southern Tree today. It just happened he was showing up to give me a quote on this, and he made a comment. He said, "Oh my God, what happened out front there? That thing, did it fall?" And I said, "I have no idea. It was gone, and it's gone now too." And I note with extreme irony that we're on the agenda tonight, declaring Arbor Day and Tree Appreciation Week in the city of trees, and yet we're out here just hacking these things down. For what reason, I don't know. I mean, he told me if it was a limbing thing, they could have left it, but there's a stump that's still 5 feet tall, guys, and we're just going out with impunity, it seems, and cutting these things down in a nature preserve. And, it offers canopy. There's egrets that eat there. There's little crabs that run around underneath that culvert that they hang out. There's no more shade left for them. I don't know what they're going to do, but, if we're trying to create a natural environment, we're certainly not living up to that charter that park was brought to us. So I just want to pass that along. I didn't know if you guys knew about it, but it is certainly a frustration.
Thank you, Chuck. Town Manager, can you give the council an update on that tree? Okay. Benjamin Lamb.
Hello, I'm Benjamin. My address is on file. I've lived in the area for nearly my whole life. I wanted to touch on the flock, as many have. I'm very thankful. Many people here are opposed to it, and I just wanted to share some thoughts. One of which is, I know she mentions Florida Statute 116, as that includes regulations on red light cameras. I think the flock system would probably fall under a similar category, and I think it would be wise to look into whether there's proper delegation of authority for a corporation to be partnered with law enforcement. I'm assuming with the town of Orange Park, to then be handling data. They say that it's your data, but as you all have mentioned, it's on their servers. Is there a correct delegation of authority to a private business dealing with your stuff, especially if it does or does not involve PPI? Another mention I thought of is, just like in 1984, as others have referenced, the dystopian state. You all have the town as a reputation of a nature reserve. I know there's many people that have lived here for 50 plus years. Having the cameras installed, I don't think that matches well with the kind of environment that you all have created for this beautiful town. That's all that I have for now. Thank you.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, that's all I have for non-agenda. We're going to go ahead and move on to item 6. With consent agenda, would anyone like to pull anything? Okay, I would like to pull item B. So do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, item A?
I make a motion, Mr. Mayor, to approve consent agenda item A, which is the draft minutes of the December 2nd, 2025 town council meeting.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, a motion, a second on the floor. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Passes 5-0. Okay, the reason I pulled the Arbor Day Appreciation Week is I would like to dedicate that tree to a long resident that has passed. His name was Kenny Rodrensky. I think this is appropriate for him. He would be here tonight if he was here. So everybody knows Kenny, and I think it's, we have not planted a tree in his memory as of yet, and I think it's overdue. So I would like to add that into this whole Arbor Day and make that tree dedicated to him, since it is on his street. So with that being said, could I get some support for that for a motion?
Yes, sir. Do we need to make that a separate motion?
See the vice mayor to the council, you would just need to move the resolution with whatever amendment you want to include in it, incorporating the mayor's comments.
Okay, then I make a motion to approve resolution 01-26 with the addition of dedication of the tree to be planted to Mr. Kenny Radwanski.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Any discussion? None. Town clerk, please poll the council.
Vice Mayor Phelan?
Aye.
Councilman Vogel?
Aye.
Councilman Benefield?
Aye.
Councilman Taylor?
Aye.
Mayor Anderson?
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go ahead and move on to item 7, new business. Item A, which I do have a couple speaker cards, but it's a public hearing approval of a resolution amending a 5-year capital plan. Do I have a motion for the resolution?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution amending the capital improvement plan for 25-26 through 2029-2030.
I'll second that.
Okay, I do have 2 speaker cards, so before we go into a vote, I would like to, George Bush.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council, I would like to have information as to the Johnson Slough project, how much in this resolution for this year, the 5-year plan is included for that. Any dollars and all, and how is it funded?
I don't have it off the top of my head, but we can get it for you, George. Yep, town manager, if we can get that information out to George.
Thank you.
Thank you, George.
Well, could you repeat the question one more time, just so I have exactly what information you wanted? You mean total for the Johnson Slough project?
I would like to know in this budget resolution, how much of it is due or cost or anticipated to go toward the Johnson Slough project? I don't know if this will be year by year or would be cumulative in your budget amendment, however you handle that, because it should be a line item anyway, shouldn't it? Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, town attorney.
Right, through the mayor to the, council. Are we not having a public hearing on
I don't
this
have it down as a
resolution?
public hearing, I have it as a resolution.
Right, but we had talked about this, or we mentioned in a prior meeting, when we're amending, the CIP. That's what we're doing here. That we follow the same process that we follow when we are adopting the CIP, which requires the public hearing. So I just want to maybe, is this a question to Mr. Villanueva, because we've had these discussions, was this advertised as a public hearing or? Okay, and that's what I thought, so I just want to make sure, so if you open the public hearing and close it, well, we should be having a public hearing.
At this time, I'll open a public hearing. Tara Hamilton.
Hello, Tara Hamilton, 107 River Road. Today I was looking at the packet and I was going over the budget and all the numbers and everything, and I noticed that the St. Johns River Soil Stabilization Project is complete and it was paid for through the grant. I have the designs that the town gave us that was done, and we paid for with the CMT. The designs were put in right before the cutoff date. I pretty much drive River Road every day, at least a couple times, and all I've really seen them do is lay down rubble and dirt and move it around. I'm sure there's a few other things, but I wanted to enter the design plans for that grant that is complete according to that 5-year plan, and put them
into the record.
Yes.
Sure.
And thank you.
Got it. Thank you, Tara. Okay, would anybody else like to speak to the public hearing? Chuck?
Mr. Mayor, Chuck Brennan, 644. I put a note up again regarding the agenda item on the bathroom facilities over at Bradley Park. And I'm assuming it's part of the budget committee. But, last I think we left it, there were two kind of proposals in terms of cost for one for, if I recall, like $1 million over 50 years for some porta potties, or to build an absolute construction with upfront costs of somewhere in the range of $250,000 to $275,000, I think is what was offered up for proposal. I mean, both of those are the price of a home, which is expensive, and the city's finances and the budget, I just don't know if it's in there, but I'm not sure where we're at. I know the plumbing team or the sewer team that's been part of the rehab for the sewer connections came out, put the grinders in, put the tanks in, put the piping in several weeks ago at the park. So I'm assuming that there's been some plans or some movement on that bathroom facility. I don't know. I missed the last council meeting, so I'm not sure if it was addressed. But there's obviously some work happening, and again, the cost of that thing really concerns me, given our budget, and it just seems to me that the numbers that were sort of worked up previously were awful high, and I just didn't know if we had those items entered into the budget in this 5-year plan we're talking about, or if there's been an effort to go back and revisit those costs.
Okay, thank you, Chuck. Okay, anybody else like to speak? George?
I'd like to follow up that on the restrooms. If you recall, when I met with your public works director, I showed him a nice facility for under $25,000. You don't need facilities like OPAA has, Clark Park has, because this is supposed to be a conservatory, not a playground, and not a tourist trap out there. So I would also like to know how much dollars are in the CIP here for restrooms at this particular park. And I don't think that's asking too much, because it seems like to me things happen in public works, and then it's like a whirlwind, and they're here, out of nowhere. And nobody on city council seems to know what happened. That's not a way to run a government. It's not a way to run a town. That's not a way to keep the public informed. I respectfully ask that, and Andy, I appreciate your interest in this and all you folks. Thank you.
George, just to, no money has been budgeted for that bathroom.
Well, how did they do all this retrofitting?
And I'm sure that's part of the water sewer program that we have going on with the grant with the state. I'd have to get with the town manager.
If you would follow up on that, let's get some.
But as of today, there's no money that's been put aside for a bathroom. Okay, would anybody else like to speak for the public hearing? I see no one. This time I'm going to close the public hearing. Public hearing is now closed. Bring it back to the council. Okay, looking for a motion to approve the resolution amending the capital improvement plan for 2025-26 through 2029-2030.
I can repeat it though.
Okay. I'm just following the procedures for the public hearing. Yep. No, that's fine. We have it. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I wanted to make clear my understanding. This resolution is to amend the budget, the CIP budget that was previously approved in last year in, I think, June, and move some items from one area to another, put something off, and that kind of thing. The funding for the for everything to do with Johnson Slough is in there, but it's not being amended. And I just wanted to, that may help them find the information that Mr. Bush wants. It's in the CIP, but it's not part of the amendment tonight. Thanks. That's all I want to say.
Discussion. I see none. Town clerk, please call the council.
Councilman Taylor?
Aye.
Councilman Benfield?
Aye.
Mayor Anderson?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Sandlin?
Aye.
Councilman Vogel?
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
Okay, we're going to move on to item 7B, first reading of an ordinance amending Chapter 14th of the Town Code regarding the cemetery. I'm looking for a motion for a first reading by title only for ordinance 01-06.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for first reading by title only of ordinance 01-26.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Town clerk, please poll the council.
Councilman Vogel?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Sandlin?
Aye.
Mayor Anderson?
Aye.
Councilman Benfield?
Aye.
Councilman Taylor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
Okay, town clerk, please read the ordinance by title only.
An ordinance amending section 14-20, permit required for burials, Article 2, Magnolia Cemetery, Chapter 14, Cemeteries of the Orange Park Town Code regarding standards and requirements for burial vaults and burial containers at Magnolia Cemetery, providing for conflict with other ordinances, providing for severability, providing codification instructions, providing an effective date.
Okay, thank you, town clerk. Going to move on to item 7C, a resolution scheduling public rates hearing to increase water and sewer system. Looking for a motion for a resolution 03-26.
I can make a motion. I can make a motion for that, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion for approval of a resolution number 03-26.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, is there any discussion? No?
It's a scheduled public hearings.
Hold on 1 second. I do have one speaker card. Tara? Before I take it into a vote.
I just wanted to have you all talk to the community about what we talked about at one of the meetings for the stormwater, how they've popped the caps and put the new caps so that people need to know to get the shut-offs at the house because they no longer have a key on the meter cap at the right-of-way. I think that's very important for the community to know. And also, my husband and I were out of town for almost a month. It was only one person there, and this child she's not a partier. I know there was no parties thrown or anything. And our water and sewer bill was $160. The next month, we had a full house, and it was $167. So, I mean, something's just not right. But if I were to call the Public Works for them to come out and pop my cap to see if it would cost me $50. You need to put that out to the public to let people know that before we start doing all this, resolutions and everything, and 15%. That's just my opinion, and I appreciate you doing that for us, because I haven't seen it in any of the bills or anything. I think it's really important.
Okay.
I do thank you. I see a lot of good things going on here. You guys are doing a decent job. I appreciate it.
Got it. Thank you, Tara. I do want to put out before I go into a vote that the public hearing they're looking at is March 3rd, 2026, and March 17th, 2026. Okay, any other discussion? Nothing?
I just want to point out, it is for a public hearing to talk about it and talk about recommendations, and that nothing's been decided. That's why we're doing this, is to get public input and to try to do this the right way. Thank you.
Courtney, I'm verifying I have a motion on the floor. In a second. Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. There's no set amount has been set. That's why we're getting the public hearing together. Yes. Council Clerk, go ahead and hold the council.
Vice Mayor Sandlin,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson,
Yes.
Councilman Benefield,
All right.
Councilman Taylor,
Aye.
Councilman Zoll.
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
Okay, I do want to put a note out there. This is about rates. The study that came out recommended a 15%. We had a couple workshops which residents and council was not agreeing with what we were looking at, so we will be discussing more during the public hearings, so I encourage everyone to come to the public hearings. Okay, we're going to move on to 7D, approval of a barrier purchase, and I will turn it over to the town manager.
Yep, this was from my first meeting in December. I had asked that we table this till we were able to get some more information on allocation resources and proper approval for payment through the CIP through verification with legal and getting more information from Chief Case. Everything was on the up and up and appropriate on the method to purchase these, but these are security barriers that if police has any, police chief Case has any information to share, he can, but these are barriers that we have oftentimes utilized through the sheriff's office, but due to their increased usage, they have not been available for our public events. So these are designed to stop vehicles from pushing through. Previously, we have used public vehicles, things like that, but these are items specific for these type of events. So, again, after further review and making sure everything was, I's were dotted and T's were crossed, it's back in front of you for approval.
Okay. Got it. Do I have a motion for approval?
Yes, Mayor, I make a motion to approve the sole source contract with the Meridian Rapid Defense Group LLC as presented in the text contract for $119,314.30 to purchase Meridian barriers and other specified equipment.
Okay, do I have a second? I'll second it. I have a first and second. Okay, any discussion? I do have a quick question for Police Chief. Chief, I'm just trying to figure out how often do we use them, and if it's not very much, is there some place we could rent them instead of buy them?
So we use them pretty much at every event we have. The Fall Festival, if we have Kids Fest, we use them there. the Independence Day fireworks, just about any event we have in the town, we utilize them, and the company does rent them. You can lease them or rent them.
Do you happen to know what the price is? I'm just trying to,
I do not know that price. I can get that information for you.
not necessary. Anybody have any questions for the police chief before I have him sit down? Okay, thanks, chief.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor and a second. Any other discussion? Town clerk, hold the council.
Councilman Benefield?
Aye.
Councilman Taylor?
Aye.
Councilman Vogel?
Aye.
Mayor Anderson?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Sandler? Aye. Passes 5-0.
And move on to site. Item 7E, a resolution authorizing consent to assignment to assumption of engineering service agreement with CPH Consulting LLC, and I will turn it over to the town manager.
Excuse me. This is due to our procurement policy and statutes regarding engineering services. We had a previous contract with Midtower and Associates. While they were their assets were acquired, but in order to allow for CPH, since it was not an official merger, we needed a consent to assignment, which is basically taking the items that were either in the middle of being worked on, so on and so forth, in some phase of development. In order for CPH to continue working on those and get them done, we need to do a consent to assignment. I worked with legal on this in that to get the proper verbiage, as well as to ensure that we were following not only our own procurement, but that we were in compliance with state statutes. Given that it falls underneath the economic threshold, which I believe is in the 300,000 range, we're well under that for these 3 projects to be finished. But then moving forward, we put out an RFP for continuing services for the engineering firms to then bid on the remaining contracts that and work that has to basically be completed through that was assigned through the town. So again, this is just a policy and a procedure following to make sure that we're in our own compliance.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for the town manager?
I have one.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Taylor, and this is probably in here, CPH Consulting is a subsidiary of CESI? Or CESI? CESI buys Midtower, but CPH Consulting is in contract with the town. I think CPH is a subsidiary.
Our original contract was with Midtower. Midtower's assets were acquired by CPH, and I can default to our attorney as far as perhaps the clarification, but CESI is the new name of Midtower.
Correct. They're 2 separate entities.
They are 2 separate
organizations. Through the council, Councilmember Benfield. CESI is basically Midtower, which is a still active existing entity under Florida corporations. Okay? And then you have CPH Consulting, that is an existing distinct entity that is taking over these specific projects that are listed here.
So CESI buys the assets of Midtower.
No. So CESI, through the council, to Councilmember Benfield, it is confusing. So you had Midtower, who did a name change.
Okay.
That's all they did.
Okay.
Does that make sense now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for the town manager?
Maybe it's for town manager, maybe it's probably works director. When you talked about doing RFP for additional engineering work, is that what you're saying? After the 3 the 3 go there, but then it's an RFP for
continuing services. So it's continuing services aspect. So in order for because of the specialized nature with the that NS and CPH and Midtower at the time had done with regard to wastewater, in particular, some of the expertise lied in the other end, so we needed to open it up to allow those companies to then bid on it, because there is continuing work moving forward that isn't in progress, that they, and other companies will be able to bid on an open format, given the size and the scope of the project moving forward with all of the wastewater. And perhaps if you have more specific questions, Kyle is here and can provide some more clarity.
Yeah, I'm just curious on, would that not default or have the opportunity to default to the other engineers that we would have on the retainer, or essentially?
Sure, and Kyle, would you be able to shed some light? Ultimately, I believe it comes down to, again, the nature of the work, and within those engineering firms, certain ones specialize a little bit more in other areas, and getting one that, allowing it to go to RFP allows more competitive approach to getting those more specialized engineering firms to be able to bid on those continuing services contracts. Doesn't mean they're going to get all the work, it just allows them to be into the fold of continuing services.
That's all correct. Kyle Croce, Public Works Director, Mr. Mayor and Council. Everything the town manager said was correct. So CPH is taking over some of the contract work that is already in progress, but there is more work in the wastewater and water treatment plant area, the collection system and distribution system, and in order to have them eligible as a continuing service contract, we went out for RFP, which also allows other engineers to provide their services or provide their qualifications for services.
So the other engineers that we have, they don't do wastewater, or what do they do?
Some of those engineers do wastewater. Some of the engineering companies have offices that are not in Jacksonville or not in the state of Florida. So in order to get the quality of engineering and response time that we are really comfortable with, we want to go out for an RFP to include engineers that have offices or with engineers with a specialty of water and wastewater that are close by, and putting an RFP out allows for us to do that. So short answer is yes. A lot of those engineers are out of state. Response time isn't ideal, and out of state requirements, although they go through EPA, some DEP, Florida Department of Environmental Protection requirements may be a little bit different from state to state, obviously. So that's the reason we went out for an RFP.
I am understanding you. It's weird that we would take them on as a retainer if response time was the issue. I guess what I'm saying, what I don't want to get into is we have opportunity to have engineers and contractors and whatever on retainer that we're going to use, and we can give them these services, and then we go, no, just kidding, we're going to bid it out anyway. Right? Because what would happen is that engineering firm or that contractor would go, well, I don't want to be on retainer with the town because you're just going to bid it out anyway.
Yeah, I think the last time we bid it out was in 2024, and there's no reason why we wouldn't go out for an RFQ for updated information and qualifications for other engineers to provide work to the town.
I like that answer. I like the additional information, getting updated prices. Fair enough.
Does anybody else have anything for Public Works Director? Nice. Thank you, Kyle. Okay. Do I have a motion for approval?
Make a motion to approve resolution number 0426.
Second. Okay, any other discussion? Town Clerk, go ahead, poll the council.
Mayor Anderson,
Aye.
Councilman Vogel, Councilman Benfield,
Aye.
Councilman Taylor,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Sanders. Passes 5-0.
Thank you, Town Clerk. I'm going to move on to item F. I am going to let Public Works give their update on the slough before I have the speaker cards. Item F, Johnson Slough roadway and culvert improvement project update, and we'll turn it over to the Public Works Director.
Mr. Mayor, Council, Todd First, Public Works Director. The update for this month on the Johnson Slough roadway and culvert improvement project is the town is continuing its collaboration with the owner's representative, Jones Edmonds, to review the 90% design plans that were submitted. The contractor has submitted the permit application to the St. Johns River Water Management District for review and approval, after which the district will forward the application to Florida Department of Environmental Protection for their review and approval. Throughout this process, the town staff will maintain weekly communications with the St. Johns River Water Management District to address any questions and any information that they need and respond promptly to requests for additional information. This month, January 2026, town staff, Jones Edmonds and Superior, will finalize the guaranteed maximum price for council consideration as part of an amendment to the design build contract. Staff anticipates presenting the contract amendment for council approval in February of 2026, and following the anticipated 90-day review process by the Water Management District and DEP, construction is expected to begin in and around March of 2026.
Okay, anybody have any questions for the Public Works Director? Not this time. Okay, thank you, Kyle. Okay, I've got a couple speaker cards. Mr. Bush?
Thank you for allowing me to speak on this very important issue, because it affects every department within the town of Orange Park, and it affects many citizens. First, let me say that I felt that RFP by Jones Edmonds, your engineer, was very poor in construction. There's been no direction to the contractor as of today on the pricing options in a timely manner. I think you approved this contract last March. Only one bidder means that there's no competition in higher prices. Projects such as this adversely affect our town Orange Park budget for the next 20 years. The governor and the legislature have proposed tax relief for ad valorem taxes, which affects your funding source. Police, fire, rescue are the biggest impacts on your budget in the town of Orange Park, as all municipalities and county governments. My prediction is that Orange Park will be forced to downsize or outsize some of these sources if we're not prudent and wise with our fundings. And the two public workshops that you held, and I appreciate you having them, they held very well. There was almost unanimous opposition against the project. Cancel, let me tell you what I feel the options before this council are. Number one, cancel the project altogether. It's too expensive, and it must increase the taxes for 20 years, impacting the budget. Number two, modify the project. Build only plain fill without kayak height costs, and eliminate Nelson rebuild, and eliminate the Corn Street Bridge and open Corn Street Road from the structures on Dudley Branch. It's been proven that Dudley Branch is a hindrance right there at Corn Street because of the damming that was done by Mr. Nelson. Build plain fill, these are options now, build plain fill with kayaker height increase, but only Orange Park residents will pay the cost, not the kayakers. You could also, number four, build Johnson Slough project as designed. You are taking millions of Orange Park taxpayers' dollars with little benefit to the local Orange Park residents. And last, number five, build Plainfield, raise Nelson at the park entrance, cancel Dudley Branch, and no kayaker elevations and costs. Those are the issues that you should have been talking about for months. Those are the issues that this contractor has not provided with you. And every day, every minute, every second that goes by puts you folks in a more adverse position in this council. I appreciate your attention to this. Believe me, this will be the issue of the decade. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Chuck? Actually, Chuck, you have two here. Culverts and
It was the
bathroom, yeah.
Yeah, we already talked about that with the budget, Mr. Mayor. Supplement on 644. I'm not near as eloquent as Mr. Bush, nor, steeped in knowledge with some of the things that he addressed. But one thing I do continue to worry about and have concerns is the financing for our town. The county just passed a 10% increase, I think, on for millage on real estate. We're talking about 5 to 15% for sewer. We don't have the funding for this project, ergo we had to reach out for grant money that was only matching 50-50, and we had to cover the rest of it either with some sort of a bond or with a loan, which we've, I guess, been given approval on, and we're thrilled that we've got great rates on it. But at the end of the day, Mr. Bush talks about the fact that there's recurring revenue streams in the future that are going to be impacted. And so what are we going to do to help fund this? We've got a commercial note we've got to pay off. It's only going to add more burden to the taxpayers, in my opinion, to continue to pay for this. Some of the RFP outlines that we talked about, I still ask the question, what's the object of the exercise? Is it to, help with the mitigation and management of some of the flooding that goes there? Is it to keep the tires on the cars that drive across these roads dry, or is it to keep the heads of the potential kayakers who can only, puddle around underneath the bridges from bumping their heads? I think at the workshop, Mr. Mayor, you've asked the Edmonds team to come back with a different proposal that talked about, cost reductions if we drop the elevation a little bit. Has that showed up? Is it here? And I don't think so. I'm hearing that potentially we're moving forward to start construction. And is that what you guys had asked for? Again, I think we need it. It impacts all the citizens in town, but, what we try and accomplish in terms of the goals of this project, we've got to question. And every layer of need or RFP, requirement out there adds an element of cost. And some of these things are nice to have, some of them are need to have, and I'm just curious, where we stand in that regard at this point, given the finance that we're looking at. So that's what I just want to share.
Okay, thank you, Chuck. Okay, anybody, any questions for the town manager or for Kyle before we move on? Go ahead, Yuki.
Thank you. I'm sorry for not filling out a chit. I had not planned on speaking. But as the night goes on, I hear different things that concern me. One being Chuck bringing back the memory of the 70 trees that were plus trees that were cut down that y'all didn't know about until he told you. And now apparently I was out there today trying to find the eagles and saw this big old 4-foot tree had been cut down. I'm saying, well, why was that cut down? Apparently y'all didn't know about that. Throughout the years, and some of you haven't been around here at the times, there's a lot of things that go around here that y'all just aren't aware of, and you're kept from. Not that you're not looking for them, but they're kept from you for a specific reason. So I don't know why you wouldn't know that tree was being cut down. Good tree. The bathrooms, I don't understand. You say there's no funding for the bathrooms yet. I don't know if there's a plan for bathrooms. I hear there's a plan for bathrooms. There's not a plan for bathrooms. But why would you spend our money running water and sewer over there if there was no plans for a bathroom? I believe there's plans for a bathroom. I believe there's plans for increasing that activities over there. If you remember, again, some of y'all weren't here, but the Florida taxpayers gave the town that property as conservation property. Conservation, that means nothing happens to it, nothing gets built on it. It's not a playground, it's not a park, but you guys are treating it as a park. And you're moving forward, spending tons and tons of money on this thing. The permit that I saw was submitted by our new town manager. I don't know. I didn't see Jones Edmonds' name on that. I did see a couple of errors, and I'm sure that'll get brought out before it's over with. And I think the main thing with what happens around here a lot, those meetings that you had about this project, what, last year, was it last year? You had 2 meetings. And just like it was stated tonight, the majority of the people there was opposed to what y'all wanted to do down there. This is y'all's pet project, or somebody. But the people that was in this room were opposed, not because we didn't know what the money was at the time. We knew it was going to be a lot, and the taxes were going to be raised because we're going to have to pay for this. But they didn't want that. They didn't want that swamp damaged. So why don't you listen to the people when they say we don't want something? Instead, you just say, we're going to do it anyway. So that's just my only comment. I just don't understand why y'all don't listen to us. I mean, you guys are up there for that reason. You're not up there for your own benefit, for your personal agendas. You're up there to do stuff for us. What we want and what we don't want. Maybe what we want and don't want might not be unreasonable, but at least you should listen to us and do what we want to do. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Eugene.
I did want to say, while I'm here, to my good friend Gary and Pat Meeks, they're religious watchers of the show here, so I take Gary and Pat right up there.
Got it. Thanks, Eugene. Okay, we're going to move on to item G, committee board reports, and I'm going to go to the first one, which is Historical Preservation Board. Town manager, are you doing that? Who's going to do that?
No. Stephen, Director Smith will take care of that.
Good evening. Stephen Smith, ECD Director. This is the report from your Historic Preservation Board. The board recently met to discuss next steps in the draft of the Historic Preservation Code, and there were 2 items of concern that they wanted to lean on the council for some advice and direction. One involves whether the community input in the form of resident workshops should be held prior to council review of an ordinance, and the second is whether homeowner participation for historic property should be mandatory or voluntary. Regarding the workshops, the idea is that it would allow residents to better understand the ordinance, its benefits and expectations for historic properties. The board suggested that either a separate council workshop or a joint workshop before adopting the ordinance. Additionally, the board previously voted to recommend mandatory participation, which would require property owners to obtain permits, board approval for exterior changes consistent with state guidelines and supported long-term preservation, and qualify the town for certain grants through the certified local government status. The board's developed the draft historic preservation code guided by the state recommendations at this point. And so, in summary, the intent is to confirm council support for either the mandatory voluntary participation, and determine whether a resident workshop should be held prior to an ordinance by council. So, have to answer any questions.
Okay, so you're looking for 2 things.
Yes.
Whether to make it mandatory or voluntarily.
Correct.
And resident workshops.
Yes.
Okay, any thoughts from the council?
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
my initial thought is, I hesitate to sit here and say, I realize that the state guidelines are recommending mandatory, and it gives opportunities for certain grants for certain things. When I look at the attached listing of the identified structures. I'm not sure I would personally consider all of them historic, so that some of them I think are, I guess, being considered historic because of what kind of structure, what type of structure they are. And I think this is for a small town that's primarily a residential community, this is a pretty nice little list. There's over, well, one list gives numbers of 68. The other one is the 2 3/4 page list that has more than 68, I guess, or at least 68. That's over 100 homes in this little town. And I personally think we need community input before we make a decision whether or not we're in favor of mandatory or voluntary. I am personally in agreement with protecting and honoring our historic structures because we have some beautiful homes here and in our community. But just because I think I'm in favor of it doesn't mean that it's right for the town and right for the residents. And I don't think that decision should be made by the council at this time without perhaps some workshops to talk about what that would look like, what the difference is, what eligibility looks like, and what that actually looks like. That's my opinion.
Okay. Anybody else? Question? I'll probably ask this semantically. As far as the grants, I mean, I do like the opportunity for money, but is it all or nothing, or can you have a pocket of the town choose to be historic? And what I mean by that is, yes, 100% we want community involvement. It's their home. But maybe there's a section or a group of houses or a community or subdivision that says, look, we want this. And there's other areas that go, I don't think so. It's just adding additional layers. And so with that scenario, would the town be eligible for those grants? I don't know if it's an all or nothing situation. I don't know. I would be curious on that answer, but what I'm looking at is, number one, I don't like the word mandatory. I just don't. But I want community involvement. It's their home. Some people may want it, and some people don't. I don't know if it can be split like that. I don't know. The preservation is beautiful, and the architecture is great. On the flip side, renovation is going to be a pain when you're trying to do something to that with these layers. So, absolute advocate for homeowner community involvement. What do they want? Right. So. Okay.
Mayor, the chair of the Historic Preservation Board has been working on this for plus 5 years, might have the answer to the councilman's question.
Okay.
Major Corrales, Chair of the Preservation Board. To answer your question directly for all or nothing, that only applies to the way the ordinance is written. So in the ordinance itself, in order for it to be a qualifying CLG ordinance, it has to be all or nothing. That's not to say that every single home will be designated to historic. So once you pass an ordinance, then you apply for a grant that would do a survey, which you would get from the federal government, state, whatever it is. And so that money comes from them to do a survey. There's a curriculum that says, okay, these homes, you saw that list, and I agree, some of those homes may not be considered historic. But just because they're 50 years old does not make them historic. They have to be 50 years old, they have to have a particular design that's prominent in American architectural, and once they meet those guidelines, then those would be part of the survey that we consider contributing structures to whatever district you would design inside the town. It can be pockets, it can be an isolated thing. The state likes them to be kind of a pocket or a neighborhood, kind of like Riverside, Avondale, St. John's Quarter, Springfield, Tega, St. Marco. Those are pockets. We're not that big, so that's how that would work. Now, this whole process came up because of town of residents saying we need this for our town, and it was a long process. It was just an idea, then it became this ad hoc committee, then the committee became this board, and then the board was established. Okay, now figure this out, and they've been doing it for the past 4.5, 5 years. So this was thrown by the community. Several people have left, but that was thrown because we were losing that historic character, or these buildings that you see here. The town was losing its character, and it became a drive-through. Like, we need to make this, have something that this is kind of like park, and architectural was one of those things. I did give you that little handout that kind of established this or says the benefits of historic preservation. But anyways, that's, hopefully that makes sense. If any questions, of course I can answer whatever you want.
Anybody have any questions for the chair? Okay, thank you, Angel. I know you both talked about community involvement. I'm big on workshops, so I think residents need to steer the ship, and that steering is through a workshop. Hear what they want, and then take it from there. I will make a note. I lived in Riverside. That's the reason I moved out of Riverside, is because of the historical. And it was, everything on a historical house is more money. Special windows. When you buy a house, you buy the house because it's yours. And for someone to say, well, and it depends how in depth they go. Well, you have to get the colors approved. You have to have these windows made to be original. I didn't buy a house for someone else to dictate to me on how to take care of it. So that's just my thought. But residents need to drive the train here. So anything?
I mean, my general comments are, as I hear what Angels is saying about the mandatory, I would also agree again with Councilman Vogel. Mandatory is just a strong word for me. I don't really like mandatory or anything. I think a community input's an excellent idea.
Yeah. I agree. Okay, so community input. Okay, we're going to move along to the Economic Community Development Committee, and I'll turn it over to Councilman Benefield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Economic and Community Development Committee has met. We have brought in Mr. Taylor. We've connected Mr. Taylor with John Cantrell with the Chamber of Commerce and Clay County Economic Development Corporation. The way we see the committee is that our goal is to facilitate businesses moving into the town. Specifically, in our last meeting, we talked about welcoming new businesses. We know that the micro grant is funded and in process. I believe it's being drafted for signage. The committee is looking for council direction on what else you guys want the committee to focus on. For me, I would say the best thing we could do is put another agenda item on the next meeting. If you guys can come with input on what you'd like to see the ECDC work on. We don't want to waste our time. We want to make sure we're going in the direction of council. So I don't know. We need real action. We want input on next steps that you want us to focus on. But I don't expect you to have that today. My recommendation is put another agenda item on 2 weeks from now. If you guys can come with some sort of ideas, and maybe we can hash out where we want the committee to focus beyond just connecting people and the signage grants.
So, okay, I would like to add something to that, and, you know, I've sat on this council for 6 years, and we've always had problems filling our businesses. That was the main focus I ran for our council, was to help fill businesses, and we're still having a hard time with it. So, I don't know if there needs to be a stronger partnership with the chamber in work at getting businesses into this town. Because here in 10 years, I mean, if more people leave, we'll be hating life. So one of my thoughts is we need to push new business. And we talk about restaurants. I mean, you go out here and talk in a community and say, hey, where should I go to eat? The number one place I hear for the town is Polaro. And then from there, it goes, well, Jacksonville has this, and the town center has this. So we're already pushing people out of the town. So I don't know how we can get more mom and pop restaurants within the town. I don't know, but I think our start is getting with the chamber and going, okay, let's partner and let's make it happen. Also, when the chamber invites a new business to the town, I think it's important that the council should be there with them. And that invite never comes. So just thoughts. So, okay, anything else? Before we move on? All right, we're going to move on to item 8, town manager report.
Thank you. Just to kind of give you an update on my first month that we were here, obviously we had the holidays, which like to interrupt, you know, that first full month worth, but it's been a busy month. It's been an active month. You know, just some kind of key points of what we've been doing and what I've been doing since I've gotten here. Obviously, there's a wealth of things going on. There's a multitude of projects, you know, from Johnson Slough to staff morale and you know, collective bargaining and those. So overall, just to kind of run down, so far I've been able to meet with I've met all of the staff in one way or another, whether it be in group settings, individually. I've also conducted several formal/informal discussions, staff, just to get their perspective on their situation, to explain their roles, to explain you know, the aspect of what they do within the town. I can't help them if I don't know what they're doing. And then, as well as that, working with the community and going out to multiple community events, trying to be as visible as possible, especially that first month. The community's been extremely welcoming, extremely open, offering any kind of assistance with, you know, from realtor to, you know, just general information to giving their point of view, which is all beneficial. In that same time frame, I've met with all of the council members on a regular basis just to help with the transition, to bring me up to speed. I've done that every week since I've been here, and we'll continue to do those as we move forward. Working on, as you noticed, agenda items, getting items that are in front of you that are actionable as opposed to debatable, those type of situations, so that we can, you know, utilize the staff as what we are. We're professional staff to help you get to that point, to help you make those informed decisions. So that's been a key focus, is to help with those streamlining process. This being my first full agenda, and hopefully that was evident initially. You know, obviously, I'm also providing you with the ability to have the information you need to make those decisions, rather than provide a presentation and move forward to a vote, things like that. Again, that works toward transparency. Again, met with multiple residents in the town and stakeholders, and we'll continue to do so. That means, you know, Clay County commissioners and so on and so forth. I'm meeting with the county manager tomorrow. In that aspect, I apologize. My schedule's been pretty packed, so which day it is and whatnot, I usually have to remind myself as I get rolling. But some of the other items we've done from a procurement side of things, we've sent out 3 RFP/RFQs for goods or services. One is we sent out a Public Works RFP for 100 of the F-150 trucks. We're waiting on the final response on all of the RFQs. An RFP for Human Resources Services at Town Hall, we should be expecting that relatively soon. We did get some inquiries, some follow-up questions, things like that, so that's good that it's out there. Additionally, RFQ, as you know, for the continuing services contract for some engineering services to again give us another option, another price competitive aspect moving forward. Hoping to get some items on the schedule for CBA meetings. I'm waiting on some more information from the actuary before we can schedule additional ones there. But I've contacted or had meetings with all of the various unions that the 3 of them that we have representing us. Joined and added my name and membership to the Florida League of Cities, which again is a big thing for advocacy. As you know, we have legislative days going up with all of the items coming into Tallahassee that impact the town, from property taxes on up. Being part of the League of Cities allows us again, as you all know through your own participation, it's a direct line to Tallahassee and what's going there and to help with advocacy, but also opens up a lot of training opportunities, a lot of developmental things, some ideas that maybe you didn't think about. It's just a good organization to be a part of, so I am part of that. Then we went to the first dinner back in December. That was up in the Northeast Florida group. I attended that with Vice Mayor Sandlin. That was on the 19th of December. There's another one in St. Augustine here, January 15th, that I'll be in attendance to. That one should be a good one because we should have the legislative update that provides us with what's coming down the pipe immediately from Tallahassee. So that'll be a good one to get at least an immediate update to see prior to legislative days and the end of the month going to that. Working on some legal or some trainings with our legal department, with our attorney. She's going to provide us with at least 2 days that we have on the calendar, the 14th and the 12th. The 14th, we're going to have an ethics training, so that'll be a good first one. And then, again, the topic on the 12th will be one of the various topics, but we haven't put that one down, but that one's already scheduled for the 12th. As you know, working through items like the Johnson Slough project, which is the largest project in our city's history. The expense is substantial. We know that. We meet on Friday with the Joan Edmonds teams to go back over some of those numbers to find out where it's going to be with that grant that we were able to secure. We want to be as studious with the finances as we can, and that means revisiting it, we're asking questions, and we're doing that again on this Friday with Joan Edmonds going there. As you noticed, the fountain up front, we ran into some issues with that, so we're looking at alternatives on getting that repaired. It was a lot more substantial damage than we had initially thought. And in essence, they could fix it, but we'd be back here probably within a year, and they wouldn't be able to guarantee the work. So we're looking at options to kind of see what we can bring for council's consideration moving forward. We're getting some quotes on different things, but again, been an extremely busy month. That's just kind of a fraction into it. Every day is good. Every day is a learning. You come in with an agenda, and by the end of the day, well, that was good. We'll work on that tomorrow. But again, still getting my feet wet. It takes quite a bit of time for a transition. Staff has been wonderful in helping me through that. Council's been wonderful, so I do want to reiterate my appreciation of that. My door is always open, both to staff and the public, and I've been able to meet with multiple people who've taken me up on that. So it's been refreshing to see. That's it. Thank you. Town attorney.
My town manager's doing such a great job, I have no reports, nothing to report on.
That's good. That's good. Okay, council members report, and I'm going to kick it off. Tomorrow is a ribbon cutting at 8:15 at the Clay County Tax Collector's Office. Happy New Year, by the way. I have had some discussion with the town manager that we're going to start discussing more as far as what's going to happen if the state does do away with property tax. So you're going to start hearing more out here and start getting into more discussions, just trying to have a plan for whatever comes down the pipe. Other than that, that's it. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Happy New Year to everyone. I hope this is a wonderful year for all of you. I want to thank you for coming out. Thank you for those of you who stayed through this entire meeting. We had a room pretty full of people, but as people spoke and shared their public comments, they left. They came to say what they wanted to say, and they left, which is fine. But thank you for those of you who stayed through the entire business session, and for your additional comments and feedback and input. And thank you to anybody who's online. People tell me all the time that they faithfully watch online. And I don't know, right now it's not a bad idea to be in my pajamas watching this, you know? It's, you know, in the recliner, that kind of thing. But anyway, again, thank you to all of you. I don't, other than the ribbon cutting tomorrow morning, the new tax collector's office is over here on Kingsley and at 8:15, and so to remind everybody of that, because they are in our town, they're here obviously for the county, but they bring people into us all the time who hopefully shop at some of our businesses while they're going over here to get their car tags or licenses renewed or pay taxes or whatever they're doing. So at any rate, we're glad to have them in the town. And I plan to go, the Legislative Action Days for the Florida League of Cities is later this month, and I have registered to attend for a day and to be a part of that. If there's anything, we've asked for meetings with our legislators. If there's anything you want me to say to them, let me know before we go. And I've forgotten the dates, I'm blank.
26, 27, 28.
So we'll be there on the 27th and for the day, and have asked for scheduled meetings with our senator and our representative, and so that we can have a few minutes of one-on-one time with them. They don't give us much because everybody's trying to do that, but at least we can do that. Is there anything you think as a resident that you would like for me to say when I have that 5 or 10 minutes of time with these people? Let me know. I'll carry the message, okay? So, thank you. That's it.
Okay, Councilman Vogel.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, 2026. Happy New Year. Thank you, Chief, Public Works, everybody keeping us safe through the holidays. I guess there were fireworks. I don't know. I was asleep. So, yeah, I want to say thank you again to everyone that was here. The farmer's market was on the 4th. The weather tried to get it, but there was some participation. I saw some people out there. Come rain or shine, they were out there, and there were some hound dogs for adoption. That's getting good. So, wet dog. But I like the discussion tonight. I appreciate Mr. Taylor for his month-long being here. Your commitment to shorter meetings, I appreciate that. Maybe next one.
No presentations.
No presentations. But look, it was real discussion tonight, and I think there's going to be some big decisions and a lot of reflection, and this council's going to have their work cut out for them. So for me, resolution, you've heard it before, you've heard the mayor speak it, I'm going to look at ROI. What's our return on these projects that we do? Does it help the town? Who does it help? Who does it bring in? Does it bring in businesses? Does it bring in things that we want. And for the layman's, Mr. Chuck's, not eloquent like Mr. Bush or Chuck, I would just say, look, is the juice worth the squeeze? Are we getting what we need out of this? And I'm looking forward to this year to be a big year, and I can't do it with the rest of the council. This is a great body up here, but I encourage each and every one of you to reach out to me if you guys have concerns, issues. I want to know, and I want to hear from you guys, and don't be shy. Be a neighbor. We're here. And really, the last thing I got, they're not in the town, but boy, they should be. I'm just going to say go Jaguars. Big weekend, so I hope they win. Buffalo. That's all that I got.
Got it. Councilman Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have too much other than just to wish everybody Happy New Year, to welcome our new town manager, Mr. Taylor. I can probably speak for everybody that he has dramatically improved my quality of life. And I'm glad to have him be here part of the team. And I hope everybody had a great Christmas. I just feel like we're so lucky to live where we live, right here in Clay County, and with the surrounding areas that are around us too. So I hope you all had a great holiday, and I think it's going to be a great year. So, and that's all I have.
Councilman Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Obviously, thank you for showing up. Black cameras and Johnson's flu seem like two pretty solid, impactful things that we're discussing tonight. I have reservations about surveillance. I have reservations about giving government power. I love the idea of Johnson's flu being a shiny new thing that the town has that everybody says, wow, this is really nice. But then you see the price tag that you think it's going to be, and then they come back with a price tag that's significantly higher than you thought it was ever going to be, and you kind of say, well, do we need it? Who does it serve? Does it make us safer? The fact that these are impactful issues makes me thankful that government takes a long time to get things done. It allows us to have these conversations. I'm often frustrated by the slowness of government and how long things take, but I'm thankful in these cases when we get to discuss things multiple times and over years, and people get to give their input, and does this all make sense for everyone? I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Nope, not yet. Not yet. By the way, this is the town manager. Can we kind of put something together to start some meet and greets? Yeah. I tried to do that in December, and it just, Christmas got in the way, yeah.
Yeah, we can work on it
together.
together and get something out for, you had mentioned something like a door knocking, yeah, we'll put something together.
Okay, thank you. Now do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'm not doing it twice.
Well, you can sit here.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay,